Lisa and I like to say that the central nervous system is the first culture of every organization. Because long before the CEO comes out and is announced, long before policies are put in place, the contemplation of working for an organization allows people to begin to look at things and evaluate things, and their central nervous system is going, is this a safe place to work?
Hello, and welcome to Building Leadership Community Podcast. I'm your host, Dora Mendez. I am the founder and CEO of Coach Dora LLC. Our guests will be entrepreneurs, small business owners, and community leaders that drive social impact. It can be lonely at the top, but it doesn't have to be. It means so much that you join us week after week for these conversations. It can be lonely at the top, but it doesn't have to be. That is the reason we started this podcast. If you're new to Building Leadership Community, we are so glad that you are joining us today. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Say hi in the comments. We love hearing from you. Before we get into the episode, check this out. We have some powerful resources to share with you today to transform your leadership by learning how to coach. Coaching is something that most people think is really exclusive. It's something that's just for executives. But really, we believe that it's something that should be accessible to everyone. So we designed a course. If you've been feeling pressure of expensive leadership programs, courses that can run close to $1,000 per credit, you're not alone. I hear from so many professionals who want to grow, lead with confidence, and make an impact, but the price tag and time commitment make it feel out of reach. We believe that coaching should be accessible. That's exactly why I created Transform Your Leadership, an exclusive growth mindset coaching course designed to give you true leadership breakthroughs without the hefty price tag. For only $97, you'll get to receive access to a program that delivers real transformation. In as little as 5 hours, a self-paced video course, you'll get traditional leadership program information, a workbook, and a handy AI prompt sheet. And at the end, you'll get a certificate of completion so you can show off your professional development and your accomplishments. So this normally takes weeks, and we intentionally build a practical, efficient, and deeply impactful course inside the experience. So you'll get these tools and framework in our coaching program that will help you lead with clarity, communicate with confidence, and step into your next level of influence without sacrificing your time or your budget. If you're ready to become the leader people trust and follow, this is your moment. The link is in the description. You can get it on our website in our courses tab, coachdoramendez.com. Leadership transformation is right there for you. Now, let me tell you a bit about our two incredible guests today. Dr. coach-eaddy is a seasoned leadership psychologist, NLP trainer, and the visionary founder of Rapid Change Group, a firm that has been leading leadership development and organizational transformation worldwide since 2002. His work is nothing short of groundbreaking. He designed a 90-day leadership curriculum from Tony Robbins, presented behavioral change models at Oxford University, and has consulted globally from the United Nations to Fortune 500 companies. Christopher's latest initiative, Cues for Leadership, brings cutting-edge insights on neuroscience, positive psychology, and what he calls the biology of business to help leaders embody resilient, adaptive leadership in real world settings. Joining him is Lisa-Oborne, a licensed life coach and leadership practitioner known for her practical, heart centered approach that connects every level of an organization. Lisa's dedication to growth, authenticity helps clients bridge the gap between intention and impact, making leadership not just a position, but a way of being. Together, Dr. Eaddy and Lisa empower leaders to thrive through authentic, clear, and adaptive leadership, guiding individuals and organizations to transform from the inside out. And today, they are here to share their experience and insights directly with you. Let's bring them onto the stage, and I'm going to hold for an applause. Hi.
Hello.
How are you? I am so thrilled that you're here. Um, so I think I'm going to tell the audience a little bit about how we discovered each other. Yes? No?
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Eaddy and Lisa, I'm so thrilled that you're here because this show is all about leadership. And you all reached out to me. You know, we've gotten 13,000 views on YouTube. We have a thriving audience across all the podcasts, the different channels. And I was so over the moon to learn that you discovered our little show and that you want to pour into our guests. And you all approached me and we had such a wonderful conversation. And it is so validating that what we're doing here on our show is backed by science. And so I'm just thrilled for our audience to learn about each of you, your stories, and I just know folks are going to get so much out of this. So who wants to start?
Lisa?
Sure, I can start. And I'll sort of share how I got into this and got into leadership. And you'll probably laugh when you hear about it, but that's okay because they're all connected, right? Nothing's independent of each other. And for me, it started with a coloring book. So we're going to think way back. And when we all started coloring and you think, oh, this is wonderful, and you color purple elephants with polka dots, and you're so excited that you've become innovative and wonderful. And what happens? Somebody taps on your shoulder and goes, elephants aren't purple. That's one of the first experiences that you have that shuts you down and starts to make you think, I'm not right. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm wrong. We bring in that stress very early on. And I think that's an important thing. And it's something I realized very early in life as these type of things happen. And this is what sort of has helped with the leadership of realizing where are you stopping people as opposed to letting them be human and excel and grow and really bring that innovation. And it can be as simple as going back to that memory. How many times have you told people that they're coloring wrong?
You know what's I love what you said about that. I've personally never done that, but I recall, I was a doodler in school, and my son is a doodler. And it wasn't until I learned later in life that doodling is actually means you're thinking on many different levels. And there were people wanting to control and sort of like manage the classroom with so many students. And even though your doodling wasn't hurting anyone or doing anything, it was just something like the classroom management, like they wanted to control. So it's so interesting that you bring that example up.
Right.
So Lisa, can you tell us, is that how you started your leadership journey? And then how can you sort of segue how you connected with Christopher?
Right. And sort of that's how I started because I realized a lot of times, even when you go into a room, you feel that same energy, that lack of connection, just like you did with somebody telling you're not coloring right. You go into a team meeting, and it doesn't matter if it's virtual or in person. You can tell the minute you walk in that room who makes you uncomfortable. And that can be the leader, from the team members, everybody. And I got into leadership because I wanted everybody to feel heard, to get respect, to really feel like they matter, as opposed to this person's more important than you and everybody putting each other down. And I wanted to change that level of how people feel. And probably, I had got into that. I was doing that at the company I worked for. I was trying to get people to think differently, change the way that they think. Yes, on the side, I was doing it in people's personal life, but it was something newer in an organization. And I met Christopher at that company as well at SAP. He joined, and it was a wonderful thing from that level. And all of a sudden, we were working on a project together, and it was looking at changing the culture. How ironic. And everything just moved from there. And that was about a decade ago. It was been a wonderful.
So, what a great story. So you guys have been working together for 10 years. So Dr. Edie, can you share a bit about your leadership story, kind of like how it began for you? And it's a perfect, baton from Lisa to you with respect to how you started working together. I'd love to learn a little bit more about the genesis of Dr. Edie's leadership journey.
Well, when I was younger, my way out of the situation that I perceived that I was in was education. And so I didn't stop until I got my PhD. I'm going to do whatever I want to do, like whatever comes to mind, I'm going to do it. So there were times when I thought, you know what, I just want to be outdoors. I want to find out what it means to work in construction. Well, in doing that, I ended up in a leadership position doing inspections for America's gas and oil pipelines out in the middle of nowhere quite often. It gave me a very different perspective of how people work in the real world. And I've also worked in an emergency department. So I've been around healthcare, been around law enforcement, both at the North Carolina Department of Justice, et cetera. So I've had it from a lot of different perspectives. And even as a professor, middle school teacher, high school assistant principal, and those perspectives have given me the opportunity to look at what really makes organizations tick. And it's what I've discovered is it's deeper than just our systems, understanding that it's systems and how we treat systems. At the core, it's really about people. And that then gets to the core. When we talk about organizations and organisms, they come from the same root word. They are biological in nature. And basically, our businesses and organizations are models of our human biological systems.
So it's so interesting because we share that in common. We both started in the public sector, working in some kind of role, helping our community, and I started in law enforcement as well, in investigating employment and discrimination complaints, and that's how I segued into human resources. So I find it I always love hearing the stories, and I love hearing how much we have in common in that respect. I also teach. I teach the next generation of leaders, and so this is a great segue. I'd love for you to share a little bit more about what community means to you, um, uh, and how that informs, how that drives your work and your decision making.
I think it's at the core of both my philosophy in terms of how I behave and how I think about not just the human condition, but we as human beings inside of organizations and communities, because I don't think we can get away from the very fact that we all share the same biology. When we, from I guess you'd call it a neurological perspective, 0.1%, 0.1% of human beings are wired differently, which means if the rest of us are wired the same, then there's some commonality that's by default. So when I think about community, it's really the filter of looking at myself when I look at others and thinking, you know what? We share something that's so much deeper. And if I honor that first, it becomes very difficult for me to elevate people at certain levels and say this person's title means more. And back to what Lisa was saying, how we get to this person's more important than this other person, et cetera. I think for me, that's where the tie is really looking at that shared biological central nervous system. Lisa and I like to say that the central nervous system is the first culture of every organization. Because long before the CEO comes out and is announced, long before policies are put in place, the contemplation of working for an organization allows people to begin to look at things and evaluate things, and their central nervous system is going, is this a safe place to work? How am I going to be treated? Am I going to be treated fairly? Am I going to be treated inclusively? Am I going to be abused, bullied? So the central nervous system is working long before organizations show up in the public sector, so to speak.
So uh, before I ask Lisa to respond, what I'm hearing is community for you is culture. It's the culture of an organization. And because we have so much more in common as people, right? The people are at the center. Um, that it's the culture, the commonality is really what is the community that you're working in, is the organization. So for you, the community of an organization, it's the people and what we have in common. Is that okay? Great. So I got it. I love getting to the nugget. Lisa, what does community mean to you?
For me, I'll put it in simple terms. Community is a place where I can be authentic. And there's no fear of being me, no need to wear the 85 masks and pretend to be something else to make everybody happy. Community for me is really that where I'm safe, where I have that feeling. And where it goes back to where Christopher talks about the nervous system. I'm one of these fortunate people. I know some other people can say it's not fortunate. If my nervous system is not aligned, I know instantly, because that's where, for me, dis-ease shows. I'm no longer at ease. I can tell I'm stressed, and some kind of something shows up, whether it's mental, physical, spiritual. I know right away if I'm not in the right community, because I will get disease almost instantly. And I think it's so important for many companies to even think about this in organizations, because if you're finding, and that's a very good mark for people to think about, even when you're thinking about the nervous system usually results in stress, it results in some kind of impact. If you're finding that your organization, the people, the processes are sick, there's a big problem. And if it starts upticking the wrong way, you no longer have a community. It's gone,
So
because
I
you can
guess
see it in the outcome.
so I guess when you say sick, I guess that's like with the term like toxic culture
Mm-hmm.
comes in. Like the sickness would be like, that's how you would define like toxic culture.
Right. But even
So
with people, if you see, even from an HR perspective, you have a lot more people on sick leave, taking days off, taking holidays more than normal. It's automatically telling you your culture has gotten toxic.
what I'm hearing, so community is something that we share together because we have in common, and then it's also a place where you can bring your authentic self.
Yep.
And so that's what I'm hearing from you. And authentic, and here, at Coach Door and at Building Leadership Community, we often say that authenticity is a superpower. But I want to follow that up, because something recently happened where I had a colleague who had to unfortunately let someone go because they were in the community, they were creating a toxic factor,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they had to let the person go. It wasn't about like dollars and cents. It was really about like trying to stop the culture from becoming toxic. And the person said, "Well, you told us we need to be authentic."
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if you can speak to, you can be authentic, but there's also accountability, right? You also have accountability. So you can bring your whole self to work and your best self to work, but you're still accountable. So can you speak to that a little bit about sort of how would you approach that? Like, yes, we want people to be authentic, but how do we balance that with making sure that people are accountable?
So I can share a little bit and what I've done in meetings and workshops that I've been in and different things where I've helped leaders. Before we start anything, let's take 10, 15 minutes because I don't want them to wear what was in the prior meeting or the prior experience when they walk into this, whatever that was. Go outside for 10, 15 minutes alone and just be there. Let all your thoughts go away. It can be breathing, whatever it is that makes you calm. Because sometimes what I have found is it's not the person that's bringing that toxic environment, it's what they just left and they keep carrying it through. And a lot of times when they get into a clear space, and I usually say outside because there's very rare times when you can just go outside in nature and not just feel calm and a release. And once you do that, you can really see what's authentic versus what had impacted it. Because I've been in some of those meetings and exactly what you're saying, it starts off and oh my gosh, it feels so toxic. But then you find out later, and I've taken people aside and going, what happened? This isn't normal for you. Their kid was sick, or mom was sick, or they had to do a hospital run, or everybody was running late, or there was a car accident that they got stuck in. They spilt their coffee, whatever it is. There were things that led up to it that never left. And the minute they got in that room, all it took was somebody to say, good morning with a smirk, and it just. And it's making sure that people come in with that clear energy as opposed to bringing with them what they just went through. And that's a lot of what I do, what I think about, and I allow people to really resonate with. It's not just, there's usually an impact. It's not just their authentic self. There's something that caused it. And it's finding out that root and seeing, can it be dealt with, or are they just normally miserable?
So that's the whole intention versus impact.
Mhm.
Sort of the intention versus impact. So you can only really be your authentic self and kind of shed, whatever trauma or whatever, if you feel safe in a space, and then you can bring that forth and bring your best self. So, Dr. Edie, can you share your thoughts about accountability?
Yeah, I think Lisa's right. And I think your conclusion is the bridge that brings it together, which is it really starts with intention. Because if you think about it, maybe biologically, when you have someone, to the example that you gave, inside of the human biology as we know it, when a cell, which is designed to have, it has functions, things that is supposed to do a certain way, it is supposed to behave. It's not an issue that that cell brings its intention or its authentic self to whatever it does, because if that cell has been damaged, it's doing its intention. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It doesn't mean that its intention is good for the system. It doesn't mean that the intention is healthy for the system. And sometimes the cell has to be removed, which is obviously the purpose of excision and surgery, et cetera. Sometimes to remove those cells. I mean, obviously there's other kinds of treatments. So I think it's perfectly normal in a human capital situation from a human resource perspective that oftentimes when you have to let people go, if we think about our businesses or organizations biologically, these things actually begin to make sense. Now, obviously, we wouldn't want to do that with healthy cells, as in the layoff process, et cetera. There's got to be some alternatives because the human body does it differently as well. The
Mhm.
human body does not say, hey, look, I like the community of cells down there in that hand, but um, I think we need some resources over here. So, boom, let's cut off the hand.
Yeah.
So, oftentimes, and a tree never does that as an organism system, a living system. It doesn't do that either. So I think it's really important to think about our businesses biologically, and that's the perspective of the biology of business, is if we just think about ourselves. I mean, literally think about ourselves as the organization. How would we treat the cells inside of our body? We wouldn't put a Band-Aid on something that was miserable under our skin. We'd change something in our system. We'd build up our immune system or something.
I kind of like the way you're framing it. I feel like I'm talking to, like, Dr. House or something. Except you're nice. Um, no, because I have this image when I was like, all of a sudden, like the graphic image of like our cells in our body came into my head. And so I always put things in terms of like pop culture. If you follow me, if you know me, I watch way too much TV. But I would love for you to tell us a bit about cues for leadership. Like what, because I know that's, you know, a new sort of like recent thought leadership strategy that you've been putting out there and working with organizations. Can you share a little bit about cues for leadership, what that's about, what that means, how that can support organizations, the health of organizations?
Absolutely. So, from the biology of business is where it hails from, but it's also from the behavioral audit framework, which is treating a business like you would treat yourself going to a doctor, where the questions that you'd have to answer are either indicative of other things going on. So, it really does give any leader an opportunity to really look at their organization like a doctor would look at not just what you're ailing from, but looking at you as a system, so to speak, to understand you, the organism. I think the bigger thing when it comes to cues for leadership is Lisa and I come from the same perspective. And I think we sort of bumped into that, sort of doing training kind of back into each other, like, oh, you think the same thing? It became easier to not convince people, but to allow people to discover their authentic self by showing them their biological self in a work environment. What that did was it allowed them to see themselves, how they fit into a system, how they fit into the organization, and it gave them a sense of purpose. And so the key framework for us is about calibrating the system. What does that mean? That means your central nervous system is always looking, it's always interpreting. And sometimes it simply needs a reset. Lisa's strategy of going outside, that is a central nervous system reset. It's something that you do to calm yourself, that you do to recenter yourself. So one of the things that we do is we help people understand that's not just rubbish. Now, we were very fortunate at SAP. They would give us time during the day, inside of the day, for meditation. And
Can you
someone would,
share for our audience and our viewers, what is SAP?
SAP is a very large ERP uh, software company. There are times, it's right there in the third, fourth largest software company with all of the different assets that it has, et cetera. Very large organization, 100,000 person plus organization. And Lisa and I were working on leadership initiatives to transform. And literally what we discovered was if we're going to move through the transformation, not just from a technological perspective, it's got to be a people perspective because it's got to be people first. Technology has never been first.
So I love how you say, like, it's not just like woo woo, right? There's real science that back this, because a lot of people think when we're talking about authenticity and leadership that those are like feelings and that has nothing to do with driving profit or results or business or operations. So Lisa, can you speak to how these aren't just like concepts up here, or like they are real concrete result driven strategies, when you're looking through leadership through that lens, how there's real result driven strategies that help your business thrive.
And I think that's a great question. And a big thing about this is, of course, I like to give examples, right? Christopher loves to give the science. I give it through examples. It's just how we match. And if you think about driving, which we've all done, what happens to you when you drive and all of a sudden you get stuck in traffic or somebody cuts you off? You get angry. And what happens to your breathing? It gets faster. You get tense. You kind of like change your whole posture. And if you were in that same room and you're in a meeting, take that same approach. You're in a meeting and somebody says something that's completely unaligned with you and it makes you mad. What do? You tense up, your breathing changes. It's usually quicker. It's not near as deep. You're stressed. It changes the way you react. It changes the way you respond. It changes the energy in that room. That can be proven because we've all experienced it. And we all go through that. If you're walking down the street and you're trying to get across the road before it turns red and a car cuts you off, what do? Same kind of reaction, right? You get tense. When you get tense, you change the energy. You make the wrong decisions because you're reacting on anger. You're not reacting on any facts. You're not thinking about it. You're not letting it go through and say, okay, what's good, what's bad, what's right, what do I really need to consider? You're not looking at facts. You're just looking at reaction. And that's what we consider to be normal. So when you're saying about the other's not scientifically proven as much, it actually is, because the minute that you slow down, you calm, you breathe deeper, which, for me is usually going outside. But the minute that you get rid of that reaction from an emotional perspective, all that logic starts to come back. You become more innovative. You get more ideas. You're able to get more people participating in the room because they want to join you on the journey, as opposed to the other, like with the car, they want to cut you off too and probably hit you. Very different, right? How much great ideas or change are you going to get in an organization when everybody wants to hit you versus working with you?
So when I hear the both of you, because I get it, I'm right with you, but I'm thinking of our audience and our listeners and our viewers, some who are emerging leaders, are striving to be leaders, because we all know leadership isn't, it isn't a job title. But when I hear the things that you're saying, I hear how those are great things for your personal life too, not just your professional life. How you approach conflict resolution, how you approach problem solving. I would love for you to share some advice for the next generation of leaders, something maybe you wish you would have known or would have told your younger self. I'll start with you, Christopher.
Sure. Wow, that's a loaded question. I think what I would have liked my younger self to understand or to know, that the hustle was real, it was worth it, and the bottom line is, where I thought I couldn't because I didn't pursue it, I should have, to have the experience. Because I'm finding out as I become more of a seasoned human being that that's part of what life is about. It's about the experience. It's not a place or a destination or an achievement or a title or a position. It's about the experience, because when I take it from that perspective, I'm able to give something back from it, as opposed to thinking that I'm constantly taking from it. I think that the bigger focal point from my perspective, at least when it comes to what is it that I would want people to get from the journey that I've had, is simply what Lisa said, and I'll say it a different way. When the front part of your brain is on, the back part of your brain is off. This part is emotions. This part is logic. And when this part is on, this part is off. And when this part is off, this part's on. And so it becomes very difficult when you're highly emotional to be logical. as would be the experience of every person. I mean, insurance company they know that, and so they charge rates differently. At least in the Western Hemisphere, United States, they charge rates differently by gender because they know when the brain is maturing and how emotional people will be at certain ages. So it is scientifically understood. And obviously there's a lot of money made around the simple fact that as human beings, and we don't become not human beings when we go into organizations. And so to Lisa's point, it's very easily understood that if I'm in my emotions, it becomes very difficult for me to attend to my duties logically.
So, what I'm hearing from you is first, the hustle is real and the hustle is worth it. So it's worth it. And from your perspective, because you took sort of this very scientific approach to understanding how the brain works and self-regulation, and you're sharing that with others, which I think is fantastic. And Lisa, can you share what advice you would want to give emerging leaders? Maybe something you wish you would have known when you would tell your younger self?
Mine's a little bit different because people have asked me that question regularly. And I would say I would have my younger self tell my older self instead. I reverse it because my younger self was patient. My younger self didn't want to be controlled by the hustle. My younger self wanted to stop, think things through, be logical, not run on emotions. There was a part of time I got caught in that trap. So I wish my younger self would have told me not get stuck in that trap for a certain period of time, because I've gone back to the way I thought and the way I behaved and the way I acted at 25. So
I love that.
I knew and realized at 25, and I got pulled into the world that I decided wasn't for me, that I already knew many years ago.
I love that. I love that you've kind of flipped the script, um, because we're always learning and we're always growing no matter what stage we are in life. I really truly believe in lifelong learning. And I love that you flipped it, that you call on your younger self to help you now in this stage of life, to really guide you. And it's almost like when I hear what you're saying, I think about how I was fearless when I was younger. Like I would jump off 23 feet diving board with no fear. And now you wouldn't catch me up there
Mm-hmm.
because now I have fear. I was
Mm-hmm.
fearless when I was younger. And I would love to bring back that sort of more risk taking, I was so fearless when I was younger. And I think my younger self would tell my older self to take more risks. So Lisa, that is something that's a first for our show. And both of you, this is a first for our show, period. Just having two folks, a team, folks that work together. So can you share with our listeners and our viewers how you guys work together, how folks can work with you? What would you like our audience and viewers to know about your work and how you guys work together?
I think it's important for people to understand that their message is important. Your message is important. And so if you have a message and Lisa and I can help you get that message out, and particularly if it's congruent where, obviously the connection is what you're understanding in terms of the work that Coach Dora is putting out in the effort to understand community. If it's congruent with that, then just reach out to us. You can reach out to us at info@cuesforleadership.com. Both of us receive that email. Scheduling options. We do a podcast. And I can tell you, you have to pardon my voice, please. I'm recovering from an illness. We try to make it fun. That's our perspective with everything that we do, is that human beings learn more when they're having fun. And so just reach out to us. There's options for just, quick conversations. If there's something that we can give to you and you get on your way, particularly from a psychological or coaching perspective, we're not in that place where we're saying, hey, look, it's about business. No, we've gotten to that point in our life where it's about what can we do to help you be happy and then be grateful for that happiness. That's the ultimate reward.
I want to thank you both so much. You've given us a lot to think about, a unique perspective for this show. I'm so thrilled that that folks are gonna hear what you have to say. I'm gonna ask you to hold on just a little bit as we roll our closing credits. I think we could talk forever. I could talk for you guys are so fascinating. I could talk to you forever, but we don't have forever. So hold on a minute, and thank you for joining Building Leadership Community Podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You've been listening to Building Leadership Community. Watch on YouTube at Coach Dora M. Listen wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube at Coach Dora M. Visit me on the web at coachdoramendez.com. Hosted by me, Dora Mendez. Produced by Dora Mendez and Dylan Rogers. Graphics, editing, and sound mixing by Dylan Rogers.